Hi everyone, this is Jack Montgomery. Welcome to the first installment of my new podcast, A Passion for Photography. Passion is contagious, and I am delighted to have a chance to share mine with you. I hope you'll stay with me as we open the door to the spiritual and emotional side of this wonderful art. Make yourself comfortable and get ready to take the journey with me, and I'll be back in just a moment. Hi, this is Jack again. And first of all, let me say hello to all my friends from Facebook, Twitter, and elsewhere who are joining me here today. I know that many of you already share my passion for photography, and I hope to make these podcasts part of a larger conversation and collaboration. I always welcome your thoughts and comments through my website, jackmontgomeryphotography.com, Facebook, and elsewhere. Unlike most other podcasts, many of us already know each other's photography and a bit more through social media, if not in person. That's a marvelous start for a conversation. So let's begin. Let me tell you a bit more what this podcast is about. Most fundamentally, it's about passion. Most of you may be here because of your interest in photography, but hopefully others have found their way here because of a broader interest in the concept of passion and how it can impact our lives. Perhaps you're passionate about something else. Perhaps you sense a need for passion in your life, but you haven't found it yet. I know I experienced a great sense of emptiness for many years, and I found myself on a quest to find that special thing that would give me a measure of meaning and structure to my experiences of life. Whatever your path leading you here today, you're very welcome, and I hope the discussion will aid you, even if ultimately your passion is in something totally unrelated to photography. I am coming at this podcast from the perspective of a 60-something-year-old guy living on the coast of Maine. Photography has been a central part of my being for the last 25 years. It's been an organizing principle around which much of my life has centered throughout that time. It has impacted my view of almost every aspect of my experience, and in a most positive way. So I'm a great enthusiast on this subject. As I'm sure you can hear from my voice, the passion I'm talking about is not simply a hobby. It's a deep interest and a commitment to a subject that touches me in a very real way. From me, it demands a lot. First and foremost, it requires that I recognize it and accord it a place of respect. And along those same lines, it requires discipline. I began my deep interest in photography at a time when I had 3 young children and a very intense job. It would have been the easiest thing in the world for me simply to let go of photography and tell myself I would turn to it seriously when the kids went off to college or when I retired. And what a mistake that would have been. My passion required a great deal from me. I started as a film shooter. That meant that every time I pressed the shutter, I was required to spend about 5 minutes in the darkroom for each of the small images on a proof sheet. I was shooting in medium format, which meant that there were 12 images on the roll. So one roll of film worked out to about 1 hour of time in the darkroom just to get to the proof sheet. The only way I could find time to process the film was to get up at 4 a.m, so I could have 2 hours before the day began in our household. I won't pretend it was always easy to do, especially on a cold winter morning here in Maine. But nonetheless, I rolled out of bed with a great sense of excitement to see the first iteration of those images I had captured with a camera during the prior week. I won't kid you, balancing my passion with my responsibilities to my family and work was not easy, but the rewards were huge, and they've paid off continuously ever since. I came to think of my photography on the one hand, and the rest of my life on the other, as 2 intertwining strands, much like a DNA helix. And what made this work, for me, was that those strands of DNA were repeatedly joined. They didn't exist in isolation from one another, but rather interconnected repeatedly. And they do so to this day. Part of the work of nurturing my passion has been to find as many of those points of interconnection as possible. Let me give you an example. I used to travel a great deal for my work, sometimes to some very interesting places like the Dominican Republic, other times to less exotic locales. I made it my business to book an extra day beyond my business meetings whenever I could. I would use most of that extra day working in my hotel on client matters, so I didn't wind up taking vacation time. But early in the day and late in the day would find me on the street with my camera. And just having that camera in my hand and making photographs as my principal goal always seemed to lead me to some new experience or view I never would have had just as a tourist. The two strands of the helix would join at those moments, and many others. So let me talk about photography for a minute, as I'm going to be using that term throughout these podcasts. Photography has been defined in many ways, including the generally accepted concept of a process or art producing a two-dimensional image through the capture of light onto a photosensitive surface, whether presented on paper, metal, or computer screen, or something else. And that definition is fine as far as it goes. However, for me, the concept of photography has a much broader meaning. Beyond the creation of an image, it's the experience of seeing the world more clearly, of meeting and interacting with people I never otherwise would have met, of studying other forms of art, and much, much more. And most importantly, it has been a window through which I have been able to look inward to myself. I'll be talking about all of these aspects of photography and many, many more in the coming weeks. So please join me, Jack Montgomery, next time to talk about a passion for photography.